In this brief video, I'm going to talk about how to set up your interactive notebook, especially if you're doing it fresh at the start of this trimester. I know we're about 2 weeks in, but still, if you do want to start a new interactive notebook as opposed to continuing with your old one for whatever reason, it may be that it's in bad shape or you simply want to just start over and start fresh. So the first thing we're going to look at is the cover. Now you can do a lot of things with the cover as far as designs, artwork, and I encourage this. You can use colors, you can put stickers on here, draw relevant pictures, but there are 4 elements that need to be present somewhere in a notebook, hopefully somewhere where they are very visible and easy to find. Everything else is up to you, but these 4 elements are a requirement. The first element, and quite possibly the most important one, is your name. So your name would go, let's say again, the design is up to you, but I'm going to use this one as a template. Your name would be right here. Then the next thing that I need to see is what subject is this interactive notebook for? Because remember, this can be used for either math or science, and you need one for each subject. So I'm going to be making this one for math. So you can title it math or pre-algebra. I'm going to say math to keep it simple. Maybe in here in parentheses, pre-algebra. Next, what you need to write down is the room number. This is useful if someone finds your interactive notebook and they don't know you, which, could happen. They know where to return this to, so that way I can give it back to you once it is returned to me. So if a teacher finds it somewhere or another student finds it and they give it to their teacher, they can get that back to me. And then, just to help everyone out, my name. Again, this is mostly if your notebook does get lost, so again, it can be returned back to me. So those are the 4 things that you need on your cover. Everything else is optional, and I do encourage for you to decorate around the cover, as long as, again, these 4 elements are easy to see and they're present. Now, let's go ahead and open up the notebook to the very first page. And the first thing I want to do and I apologize for the flash here. I know it's, see if you can even see that. Well, yeah, it's a little bright. Sorry about that. It's a reflective cover. But at any rate, when you open up the page over here, this is page 1. I don't want to label it as such, so I'm going to label that page 1. Right in the top corner is where I like it. And page 1, always, regardless of what subject this is for, if you're starting new or not, is the table of contents. Now, the table of contents is important because everything we do goes on a set page, and everyone is on that set page. For example, if we're doing section 5 of chapter 2 and we're taking notes, everyone will be, let's say, on page 36. Regardless of how big you write, how organized your notes are, everyone will be at the very least on that page. And I'll show you how that works, because you're probably asking me, well, if I write big and somebody else writes small, how are we both going to be on the same page? But the way this works, you will be on the same page. And that's why the table of contents is very important, so that the way you know where all your information is. And when I say go to page 46, you know exactly, or 47, and you know exactly what we're looking at, because everyone will have the same information on page 47. On the table of contents, on the very left side here, date, lesson name in the middle, and then on the right side here is page number. And I know some of you might have the date and the page number flipped. That's okay, that's not a problem. The lesson name should always be in the middle because it's going to take up the most amount of space. So these three elements have to be filled in every time we start a new odd numbered page. We actually don't put in the even number pages inside the table of contents for two reasons. One, it keeps our table of contents a little bit shorter, more manageable, and the even number of pages always match something that happened on the odd page. The odd pages are the lead pages, and then the even pages have content that relates to the odd pages. So if you're looking for content about section 5 chapter 2, the information for that section is going to be on the odd page, and then relevant supplementary information will be on the even page. So if you know, let's say that 37 is the 2.5 page, then 36 will, sorry, if 37 is a 2.5 page, then the 36 will be also information related to that because it's tied, they're tied together. So right now I'm going to put down page number 1 and my table of contents, and the entry of the date, I'm going to put today's date, which is, I think it's the 1st of December. Yes, so 12/1/13. And the lesson name, it's not a lesson name, but it's the table of contents. I know it seems kind of redundant that the table of content is part of the table of contents, but this way we don't have page 1 be blank. So that's the first thing that you will find in every single interactive notebook that you'll do for me, is a table of contents. Next, on the second page, and I will number page 2 here. Page 2 is in the interactive notebook, or it's an even-sided page. It's on the left side. And even-sided pages are special. You will never have notes or direct instruction material on an even-sided page. Page 2 is for practice, for reflections, student work for the most part. So even-sided pages, I'm not going to include them in the table of contents because they are always related to something that's done on the odd page. So for table of contents, there's really nothing that's going to be student reflective, so that's why there is no 0 page. So page 2 is going to be right here, and page 3 in science notebooks, if this was a science interactive notebook, this would be the place where you would find the syllabus. You would have the syllabus here, and at the start of the year I asked you to give me a bit of a reflection on the syllabus itself. So that was page 3 was the syllabus, and page 2 was a reflection. But that was only in the science interactive notebooks. In the math interactive notebooks, we skip the syllabus, so it's not there twice, so it's kind of not being redundant. And we jump straight into the parent signature page. So the parent signature page is something that's very important because not only do you get points here, but that's something that your parents need to see every single time, or before every single time I collect the interactive notebooks. So the day before I collect the interactive notebooks, your parents have to see this page, and there's going to be a template which I'll show you here in just a second. And they need to sign off on it. And this is important because if your parents don't sign off, let's say once or twice in a row, I'm simply not going to be collecting the interactive notebook, and I will be contacting your parents asking what's going on. Is it you're failing to show this to your parents, or what is the matter? Usually the student just forgets, or just doesn't do it for whatever reason. The template for the parent signature is pretty simple, and I'm going to write this one big so you can see it on the camera. It can be much smaller. First of all, the date. This is the date of the signature that's assigned, and it's always a day before the collection. Then next is the page range. This is very important because the page range will list the pages that I will be checking. So these are the pages that are very important as far as the parent checking them and making sure there's nothing blank. There shouldn't be anything blank within that page range. There is an exception, and there might be a few, but it's going to be very rare. I will let the student know, and you can see that on my site. But very rare there are any blank pages. So if the page range is, for example, 20 to 30, starting with page 20, both even and odd pages within that range have to be filled in. That way, if you flip through those pages and there's something blank, well, you know that work was not done, and you can ask your student why that was the case. All right, so that's very important. Next comes the signature. Now, I want parents and guardians to sign this even if you find your student's notebook to be lacking. The reason for this is if you don't sign it, I don't know if you're not agreeing with something here or you simply never looked at it. So I do want a signature there even if you think the student's notebook is poor or you have questions, because they still have to turn it in to get some points. They can fix it later. But I need to see the signature so that I know that you've looked at it, even if you're, let's say, not happy with a certain aspect of it. But if you do have comments or you, again, aren't happy with a certain aspect, the next line is comments. So you would sign it here and then you would leave me a brief message. It could be literally just a message for me to know why a certain part of the notebook is missing. You can tell me, the student was sick, he'll make up the work, or you can write something like, email me, here's my email, or call me, here's my phone number. That way I can contact you if the message is longer. And you can also use this side of the page to write the longer comments. So let's say you do want to write me a paragraph. That's fine. You can date right here. The date would match this date, that way I know it belongs with this particular entry. And you can write me a longer comment, something that maybe doesn't fit into the template. So you could use that page for that. Or if you have any questions, you can, again, write those in there and we can communicate within the interactive notebook if you don't want to go through outside means. That's page 3. And the math, if you're doing this with science, page 3 is a syllabus, so the parent's signature would be page 5. So I'm going to go ahead and write that into my table of contents. Again, I'm going to date this today. Parent signature. Sorry if you can't see this very well. This is going to be another student's notebook. This is why I'm trying to keep this about the same size as it would normally be. Again, this is math. If this was science, page 3 would be the syllabus and the parent signature would be on page 5. Next, page 5 in math, and if this was science, it would be page 7. Everything would be a page later in science because syllabus is page 3, which is lacking in math. So in science, page 5 is the ion grading page. Quite possibly the most important page in the interactive notebook because this is where grades are assigned. And in the ion grading page, there's a template that's very similar. Well, it's similar to the template in the parent signature page. There is the date component. Again, I'm going to write this bigger than it needs to be. This is the date of the actual collection. Page range. Identical range as given on the parent signature page. The pages that I will be checking and given grades for. Then incomplete work. Incomplete/poor pages. And here I would write down in the order from the least to greatest the pages that are incomplete. And when I mean least to greatest, I'm going by page numbers. So I would, let's say if my range is from 20 to 30, let's say 22 is incomplete, 24 is poor, 27 is incomplete. So I would write down those pages there. That way you know which pages your student lost points on, or if this is the student checking, you will know why you lost, or at least where you lost those points. And on those pages I'll give you small marks, no detailed messages, but I will give you some small marks as far as you know, what was missing. And you can probably figure it out. If I gave you a -1 on the margin, you probably didn't do your left column cues for that set of notes, for example. Then after the incomplete poor page, there is the point section. And here you have total, lost, and earned. The total is total number of points that were available for this particular grading range, how many points the student lost, and how many points the student earned. So total minus the lost is the earned. So this is where you look for the total points that the student earned and over the total, that's their grade. So it's just a breakdown of the points. So this should be present for every time I collect the notebook. This is not something that I should be writing in. Actually, if I have to write this in and I have these printouts that I will tape in, if I do this, I want to take out points because the student's not being diligent and following directions. I'll still grade it, but again, if I have to do extra work on this page, I don't have an empty template, and it actually shouldn't even be empty. Every time I collect it, the date and the page range should be filled in by the student. So I should only be filling in the incomplete poor pages and the point section. If that's missing, again, your student will lose probably 2 points at this point because they know better. So the next time I collect this, there will be another template here, another template here. Now, what if you run out of space? Same thing goes with the parent signature page. What if you run out of space? What do you do then? And this is the same technique that I use for all of my pages regardless of what's on them. So if, let's say, you're taking notes on page 17 and you ran out of room, you don't go on to the next page because that would be page 7. The notes, or in this case the I am grading page, belongs on page 5. So what you do is you take a piece of paper, like so. It could be a lined piece of paper, which I have available. And then you staple this paper in. You can either do it on the side, so it opens up like this. You can do it on the top, so it opens up like this. You can also do it on the bottom, so it opens up like so. And I've seen it done in multiple ways. Top and bottom seem to be the most effective methods. You can also staple them so they open up like this, but that's kind of hard because you don't have access to the middle portion. The spine kind of makes it very difficult to staple anything in. So top, bottom, or from the right side, you just staple it in so you can still easily open up the page, and then you just go on. So, you know, if you had enough samples here, templates here, you would just staple in a new page and just start over. If that you run out of that, you take another page and you again staple that on top. so that you now have 2 pages and you just move on from there. So you never actually leave page 5. All of those are additional parts to page 5, additions to page 5, but it's still considered to be page 5. This is why everyone, well, let's say if we're taking notes on page 37, everyone's going to be on 37. Some might have more additions to 37 than others, depending on how big they write, but everyone will be on that same page. And I have line paper that's a little bit smaller than the pages inside a standard spiral bound notebook, so they fit in pretty nicely. You don't have to trim. If you use the regular sized line paper, it's actually going to protrude on the sides. I would suggest that you trim it at home. Don't spend time on it in class. That way, again, you don't have a notebook that looks kind of messy because of all those protruding pages, and those can easily get stuck on things and get torn off. Alright, at any rate, so that was page 5. Page 4 is actually pretty important too. So far the left side pages haven't been all that important, but page 4 is important. So what goes on page 4 are comments from me. So for example, here I gave you incomplete pages. Let's say if we were going from 20 to 30, page 22 is incomplete, page 25 is poor, 27 is incomplete. So I would just list the pages there, but you won't really know a whole lot about what happened there. There will be some marks on those pages themselves, usually -1, -2, but you don't know exactly why you lost points. So right over here, I would write down the date, and it would correspond to the date for the collection, and I would give you a brief synopsis or a summary of why you lost those points. So I would actually write down missing summaries on pages 22 and 27. Work isn't complete, or the worksheet is missing on page 22, and so on and so on. So it actually gives you a fairly detailed list of what was wrong and how you can fix the notebook so you can get those points back, because you can get almost every single point back. There are a few exceptions. For example, if you forgot to fill this in and I have to do it for you, I'm not going to give you those points back because, well, I already did the work for you. But for almost every other case, you can get your points back, and you can follow this list here to see exactly what you need to do. And then I want to jump right away to page 47 here, because again, this is a brand new interactive notebook, so we're kind of pretending that everything that happened between 5 and 47, well, it's magically gone. If you aren't starting in your notebook, you would obviously have all these pages, but just for the sake of ease, we're jumping so that way the student can actually start with the current material in this particular interactive notebook. So right side pages, alt pages are always going to be for notes. So let's say Monday we're going to take some new notes in math. Whatever we do in class as far as notes go, goes right here. You do this Cornell style on this page. If you're not sure about Cornell notes, I have a separate video. It's at the very end, or it's at the very back of my listings on my site for both classes, math and science. I posted the same topic on there. It's a video that shows, so it's in the past tab all the way down, how to set up the page Cornell style. And you need to do this for every single alt page unless you're stapling in a quiz for math and science, or you're stapling in a lab for science. Those obviously don't have to be in Cornell notes, but everything else on the right side is going to be notes, and those have to be Cornell style. The left side is always practice work. Could be a worksheet, could be homework, could be vocab flip outs, could be reflections if we're doing quizzes or labs. So here it's no longer notes, it's something that you're doing on your own, either in the class as classwork or at home as homework, but this is not notes. So on the left side is what I like to call student work. On the right side is teacher guided work. So here I give you exactly what needs to be done. I give you the notes. Here, I tell you what should go in here in a lot of cases, but again, it's up to you as to how you will fit it on this page. I've seen many different ways students put in worksheets. Some of them actually staple it in. Some write out the problems. Same thing with the vocab flip outs. A lot of different ways students get creative and do the vocab flip outs in different ways. The way you accomplish the tasks on the left side is up to you, as long as they're there and they meet at least the minimum requirements that I specify. You have a lot of freedom here. On this side, not so much in terms of the material that goes here. You have to have the notes. They have to be in Cornell style. Obviously, you can do some additions here, especially with color. Some have pictures and diagrams, some students don't. Here, a lot of freedom, and I encourage the use of colors and just expressing yourself as much as you can. And then you would just go on and label this. I'm going to label this notebook, not every page, but next is 49. This is 48. Even pages are always on the left, odd pages are always on the right. So if you're labeling and you forgot a page and suddenly you have even pages on the right, you're doing it wrong. Go back and fix it, it's important. Again, I'll go up to 53, just so this student has a bit of a guideline as to what to do, and I'm sure they can pick it up from this point on. And since I did fill in page 5, I'm going to put it in the table of contents. So page 5 is I am grading. And that's page 5, again, today's date. And then the next thing they'll have is page 47. It's going to be whatever notes we are taking for that particular section, and they'll put down the date of whenever they take those notes. So yeah, if you have any questions, let me know. Email me or see me in class. I'll happily go over it. But this is what everyone's interactive notebook should look like, give or take. I've seen some very different looking notebooks that still meet the requirements that I set for everyone. So you do have a lot of leeway as to how you can get this done, but the minimum amount of information has to be the same regardless of how you approach it. All right, thank you very much.